Okay, let me make sure. Oh god, I love. Dude, Kick is so good in that it doesn't make me mute it. Like when I first fired it up, it was already muted for me and the dashboard. Whereas like YouTube and Twitch are always like, you better hope that fucking tab is muted, or you're gonna be hearing two. You're gonna be hearing your own voice. No, whatever you do on like Kick should not affect anything from your channel or your creator dashboard.
PPJ.
Oh, I thought that was.
It is for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I got your cooked ones coming.
So, I do want to talk about this too because I did just write the article about it. But the first the thing that oh, there we go. Now you're not muted. The original thing that I said I wanted to talk to you about, just so we can have like the topic in the air here, is that I have what I think is the best explanation for the Bible, and that I think that if Christians don't have this idea, I actually think that it's like legitimate blasphemy to not think think of the Bible the way that I would think of it if I was Christian, and I think that by not doing it, Christians are like actually like they're just wrong. Like I don't think that not having my idea about the Bible is compatible with actually being a Christian, and I don't know any Christians that
no
do.
No true Scotsmaning from a non-Christian towards Christian.
Dog, I have generated so many better arguments for Christianity than Christians. That's like my
I don't doubt that
skill. Flat earthers too. It drives me crazy. Like if you're gonna be wrong better, please.
Now you sound like Destiny.
I've never heard him say that.
Well, it sounds like something he would say.
Funny you say that.
So,
Before I streamed, people used to think that I was Destiny in the server called the Intellectualist all the time. I guess it's my voice without the camera.
The username. Yeah.
My username then was Diodice, but people would just be like, I've had a couple of people say like, oh, I just checked his stream to see if it was him in here, and I'm like, that's crazy. And I guess I have a similar canter, but it's just because we both have ADHD and we get excited and then we start talking like rhythmically fast, I think.
Yeah.
But anyways, so about how atheists debate, when I was, so the younger I was, the more I'd say that I was like these atheist streamers, the way they debate. It's like they still have this like teenage angst against being told that religion was real when they were younger, and they're mad about it. Because that's how I was.
I guess I can understand that to some extent. To me, it almost feels like more of a... granted, this is a biased interpretation, but to me, it's always come across more as like a sort of begrudging and continuous frustration at the impossibility of ever actually surmounting this challenge of like detheisting the theist. Like
I think that's the motivating factor.
Well, I think it would be incredibly frustrating. Like if I'm sitting there and talking to, I don't know, someone like Trent Horn or William Lane Craig. Like these are guys that have made massive careers off of, from the perspective of people like myself, Dillahunt and Raw, lying. So I can understand a bit of, like, I don't know if it's good to just dismiss the animosity as teenage angst.
I think that's what causes the type of behavior that they engage in when they do
like
the
what?
debates.
Like what kind of behavior?
So all of them are guilty of like some heavy posturing when they do these debates. They're like, please, there's nothing scientific about that. Well, yeah, there can't be, because we're talking about something ephemeral.
Yeah, Aaron Ra definitely does that a lot.
And I've seen Dillahunty do it too, on his, what's the show? I used to have a co-host for a React stream that I do, and he put a bunch of Dillahunty's videos from like his atheist podcast where people call in. He's like, dude, you gotta call in. Yeah, I watched a lot of the atheist experience.
I
And
don't
so
know
he'd
if
be
you
like
know, he
chill
doesn't do
sometimes.
that anymore.
Oh, why?
So this is something that I think is important to understand specifically about Matt Dillahunt. So your camera still isn't on, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, it's not. Oh,
No, not for
wait a
me.
minute.
Um, so
Oh,
something important. Oh,
click
sorry.
click my icon,
Where?
like where it
I
says my
did.
name
Like on in the thing.
in the
It's a black
Discord.
screen for me.
Oh, it's still.
Yeah.
1 second. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I'll hold off my return salvo. Oh, I saw the OBS icon.
And you're still getting a black screen.
I am now.
Because I went to it. Okay.
Oops.
I can fix this.
Excuse me.
Source.
God damn, excuse me, I keep burping. Fuck.
Uh, what did I call it? Okay. Scene. No. I want. Yeah, I do want source.
I'm gonna enjoy another.
How about
sip of
that?
this. Yay! There he is. There's that handsome face.
There you go.
So
Tell me
what
why
I
you
was-
stopped doing it.
Well, so there was like I said, something to understand about Matt Dillahunty is, as I kind of alluded to, the sort of gradual wearing down of his patience over time. And a big chunk of it was lost with the whole. So basically, he was on like the executive board. He was like president of the. I forget what it's
Thank
called.
you.
It's this organization that.
Yeah, his
hosted
atheist
the
organization, right?
Yeah. He was like, well, it wasn't. This was not his organization, and it wasn't really his. He
Oh
was
wait, are you
like
talking about modern day debate?
No. I'm talking about
Okay.
the atheist experience.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was part of an organization that was run out of Austin, and he was on the board, and there was basically he was. I've been in this position. I'm sure you've been in this position as well, where you've been at a job or a social group for a really long time, and you just feel sort of like you're not necessarily like in a direct leadership role, but you are so integral to the organization and the branding of the organization. I mean, maybe not that part, but you are part of that job to the point where you are in the loop about pretty much everything.
Mhm.
They started cutting him out of a lot of the meetings. They started having meetings without him about like fundraising and planning and things like this. And then when he would ask for information, they would do the shove off, be like, okay, well we'll tell you later, sort of thing. He released a video about it right after he left the atheist, because I was actively watching it, up until I don't know, a couple years ago. Right around when he left, more or less. But effectively, it was just a lot of internal drama, is what it sounded like to me. And I've never really taken Matt Dillahunty as someone who has a lot of patience for personal drama or drama really of any sort. He's always been struck me as one of those guys, think of it what you will, who is actually just more interested in discussing the ideas. And I think that's part of the reason that he just fucking walked out on Andrew Wilson, is because Andrew spent his whole intro attacking Matt directly rather than like establishing a case. After Matt spent 10, 15 minutes establishing his case, I was looking forward to this debate in a sort of morbid way, because I do not like Andrew Wilson whatsoever. And I was like, okay, one of two things is going to happen. Either Matt's going to get pissed at him and walk out, or he's going to make Andrew cry or whimper. And I'm upset that it wasn't the second one, but I'm not surprised that it was the first one. I'm just surprised at how quickly it happened. But he is an old man. He's getting old and cranky, and bless him, I don't really blame him.
Yeah, I didn't have that in mind at all when I wrote the thing.
I mean,
him walking out of
read
there.
anything yet. Yeah.
Sure. But it was just about this like lack of empathy that atheists have when they talk to Christians, because atheists tend to want to debate. I say Christians, but religious people, because they want people to not be religious. However,
That's why I do it. Yeah.
in the debate, they are not doing their earnest uh, to communicate with the religious person in a way that they're going to be heard. They're not having this kind of meaningful dialogue where, like, if you're going to take somebody's religion away from them, it has to be a heart to heart, okay? They have axiomatic beliefs that their entire world is built on, that God did it. You have
Yeah,
to. There are certain approaches that are like really effective in going about this, but just going like, obviously you're fucking retarded. You don't use logic. You deny science. So obviously you should stop being religious, dude. Come on. Which is
I think that's a bit hyperbolic.
it is. However, that's how it feels for the Christian
I can't. Yeah, I can imagine. My
or
I
the
guess my
religious
response-
person.
Yeah, sure. I guess my response to that would be I don't actually think you can talk someone out of religion in the same way I don't think you can actually talk someone out of political beliefs or any other sort of ideologically held precepts, because that's something that someone comes to on their own individual terms, under their own individual like biases and persuasions and the information they've taken in. I think the best that you can do is provide as strong a case as possible for why their worldview is inconsistent, incoherent, illogical, and irrational, while at the same time just sort of establishing yours and just sort of sitting there. Because when you really get down to it, you cannot debate the existence of the supernatural because nobody can verify it in an epistemically satisfying way for both parties.
So
So in essence, I guess the debate is like debates with religious people are just kind of useless.
it's not though. So here's the thing. I have talked to, and I know this. The reason why I wrote the article is because I think I have a unique experience with this. I am responsible, and I actually feel bad for it too, for a lot of people that I met throughout my life not being religious anymore, and I wish that I hadn't done that too. I feel bad about it because some of the ways that I did it were ways that were more brute force, and I don't like that. I think
you're a deontologist, right?
well, I just think that I think it's less meaningful than if it goes about in the way that I've come to just sort of naturally do. I think the best way to convince somebody of a more secular position is to talk to them about their religion without the objective of convincing them to get out of it. You have to talk to them where they're at, for one. So in order, it's like political positions are really hard to change. However, there are certain incentives and things like that that you can show them to where, like, perhaps what they want can be better found through this avenue. That doesn't work with God.
I think that I don't know how difficult it is for some people to change political positions when material incentives are provided, at least outwardly.
It's not even always material incentives, but you may be able to, hey, thank you for following me. You might be able to convince somebody that the other party has a better chance at achieving like the ends in which they're seeking. There's just like different ways in politics. There's like maneuvers and stuff that work really well that are completely moot in religious conversations. So for me, like I used to have Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses come by a lot and knock on my door. I would let them in, and we'd sit and talk. And I remember particularly there was these two Mormon guys. They were missionaries, and I was like, "Tell me all about it." And I was like, "First, tell me about God. Tell me like I always like to ask a really religious person. Tell me what God has to be for you to be God. Like if you get rid of all the extra stuff, like what are the bottom of the barrel?" Like, what are the root elements of God? Without this, you can't be God. And if you have just these things, you got a God.
Sure.
And then they told me about their religion. And the Mormon, at least the version they told me, had the tree with the apple. But there was also another tree, and that tree was guarded by an angel with a flaming sword. And I was like, so it seems like God kind of forced them into eating the apple then, right? Not even like deterministically. Like, they really kind of coerced into eating the apple. And I was like, doesn't it seem like God did something bad to them on purpose then? This doesn't seem benevolent to me. But I was engaging with them in good faith and truly in interest about their beliefs. So they knew that I wasn't being like, hey, don't you think this is fucking stupid?
Well,
Like, why
so
would God even do that?
to pull a Dillahuntty card, if I put on my imaginary theist hat and I pretend for a second that I'm back a believing Christian like I was when I was 16, 17, 18, my response to you would be that it's blasphemous to accuse God of being evil, and the idea that God could do wrong just means that you, as a fallible human being, don't understand his divine plan. My issue here is that it just seems like the approach that you're trying to apply sort of assumes a level of charitability from the theist that they are, in my experience, they rarely, if ever, provide.
So here's the thing. You're right. When you debate a theist,
I'm not
in
talking
the way
about debating. I'm talking about conversations. Just like you described, I've had these same conversations with my grandmother, with my mother, with other family members and friends, and I have yet to have success. And I'm talking about compassionate conversations where we just sort of ask questions back and forth. I listen to them talk. I ask my questions when I have them. And I mean, bless my grandma, she'll get stumped and she'll just go, well, that's for God to decide. I think that there's a lot of people out there who it's more what you have to do in order to leave religion is not be able to logically or rationally process the arguments you're being provided. It's have the intellectual courage to say, I don't know, and that's enough.
So
and I think that for a lot of theists, especially those that have been raised from a very young age to believe these sorts of things, that is an incredibly difficult ask.
my buddy Josh in my chat said you got to meet people where they're at because you can't logic someone out of a position they didn't logic themselves into. And I do think that this effect that I'm talking about works much better on strangers when it's your family and stuff. Like, you can be as compassionate, but they know you. They know that you're up to something here. They know that that you're not, like, they know where you're at quite well.
But what isn't you saying, well, isn't God bad for doing this thing, trying to logic the Mormons out of their faith?
But what I'm saying is, like, I was like, well, I was like, I'm confused because, like, it seems like, can you help me understand how that works? And the one guy, he got kind of pissed off, but the other guy was like,
you knew what you were doing.
I wasn't trying to do anything. I was actually
I understand.
there.
I understand.
But his warning lights were going up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other guy was like, this is actually a really interesting question, and then he went through it and explained like how this had to be. And I'm like, okay. So one of two things happens when that happens. One is that they're either going to come up with an internally consistent reason for the roadblock that you have hit, because you wouldn't know that way out because you're not part of the religion. Or they're going to find out that they can't actually do that. And that is going to show them the most important thing that I think is required in somebody leaving a religious ideology, which is that I have to understand that I'm not necessarily right within my own understanding of my faith. Once a person learns that they can doubt their own ideas about it, because it can't be true if it's not internally consistent with what they already believe, then now they're at least open to the idea of being able to shift their ideas about their faith. This is crucial. You can't get them to think that like the religion is wrong, but their own understanding and interpretation of it might not be completely sturdy. This is the first step to being able to go like, well, maybe this just isn't right here.
So I would agree with that. Were you raised religious by chance? Or are you
in the loosest sense possible.
Okay. So I think that, and forgive me here, I think that you're injecting a little bit of your own subjectivity into this. I don't think it's quite as easy as you make it out for people religious people, to hit that roadblock and go, oh, this is inconsistent. I should probably reevaluate my prior. What you're describing is the process of rationality, which is what you and I have, we taught ourselves, we've learned how to do this. I taught myself how to do this. I had to learn this outside of my family environment because of the way that I was raised. I taught myself how to have rational argumentation. But, you're implying rationality present in a worldview that is inherently irrational.
People that are religious are not inherently irrational. They're irrational about
I didn't say that. I said the worldview was inherently irrational.
So I'm not wait, hang on. I'm not accusing you of saying anything. I'm just saying this to build into the next thing I'm saying. Right. People that are religious aren't inherently irrational. So Yeah. There's no misunderstanding. You're good. So while they may not be able to doubt the word, they can doubt themselves. If they go, like, they know, especially people of religion should, true believers should go, well, I know that I'm fallible. But to actually have that in practice of the saying, like, I'm fallible in my interpretation of this, I think that they have to be able to doubt themselves first. And then I assume what happens then is that they will seek out to try to find how they couldn't have understood or they couldn't put together this thing and make it whole within their ideas about their religion. They're going to blame themselves and not the religion. But this is the step that I think is necessary in order to start that journey. It's not always going to be effective, but I think this is the most effective way.
The problem that I have is most of the world's major religions, like if we take Christianity for an example, have inbuilt defense mechanisms against self-doubt. They say, oh, you're having for fuck's sake, I still get told this shit by my parents and my grandmother. Oh, you're having doubts and questions about the faith? Go talk to the pastor. Go talk to this church elder. Go talk to this person. People who...
They should.
Not to I'll betray my bias. People who know the talking points, who know the dialogue trees, who know what verses to pull up when. I don't think that they should be investigating their own faith deeper into the church. They should be investigating external sources first. Because if the inconsistency is within their own worldview, why would you then go further into the worldview to explain away the inconsistency?
Upon the investigation means recognition of the inconsistency, and this is the thing that matters the most. Well, they may not realize that that's what they're doing. There's a part of their brain that cannot ignore this, and that's sort of the seed that gets planted that allows doubt to exist.
Well, but if the seed gets smothered by a pastor or church elder before they even...
Then you're no worse off than when you started.
Well, yeah, but if you started at rock bottom, I think that's kind of important.
I'm not starting at rock bottom. People who come in aggressive and posturing and things like that, they're hitting rock bottom because they're not allowed in. I get welcomed in, and that's where I plant the seed.
I say that theism is starting rock bottom.
I did understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying there's a difference between starting off with the person on the defensive, ready to just say, no, in their head to everything that you say. Like, no, you don't get it. No, they just blasphemy. All these things that are just automatically going to, really, outside of their control, stop them from being able to hear you. My approach allows you to be heard.
I mean, just based on the conversations I've had with family members and with strangers in Discord, I don't know how realistic it is to expect a theist who's held lifelong convictions to be approached with civility and kind words, and that's what makes them that's kind of what I think is the thing with Dillahunty, right? Is I think that he's past the point of being willing to just automatically be charitable because he's had so many of these conversations, well more than you or I have had or maybe ever will have with theists, where no amount of charitability, no amount of kindness seems to have any effect. Because when you really get down to it, a lot of this is just brainworms.
Sure. However, I'm not just saying being kind and all that. Like I said in the beginning, part of it is that the objective when you go in isn't to change their mind, but it's to understand them. If I understand why you believe your religion the way you believe it, because I've met thousands of Christians in my life, and no two Christians have the same way of thinking about Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to understand how they believe what they believe, and then engage with that on their level. And then you can, if you can see where they're drawing their faith from and how it's structured, then you have a much better understanding. Because the one thing that made me sort of realize that Christians aren't nothing said it to me more that Christians aren't really Christians than there's a trope in movies where somebody's kid dies and they stop being religious, or they get a divorce, or they lose their pregnancy, and then they don't believe in God anymore. And I'm like, oh, you were never really religious. You were just saying as long as everything in my life is going good, then then I'll be faithful to this idea. But if my life
Having
becomes
spoken
bad,
from
now
personal
God's not real
experience,
anymore.
part of the reason that I ended up discarding my faith was because of personal trauma. So, like, no, that is definitely a factor when it comes to reevaluation of your faith.
I
At
don't
least it
know
was.
anywhere in the where in the faith does it say that like your life will be devoid of trauma or hardship. I think it pretty much
As,
says it's gonna be.
I mean, I don't think that's what I said. My issue, not to get too personal, was with the biblical injunctions towards sparing the rod and spoiling the child. I grew up with a lot of abuse, and I found that difficult to reconcile with the idea of a loving God. But I did that on my own. It had nothing to, nobody came to me, nobody approached me, nobody asked me questions. I did my own introspection. And
Sure.
I don't know that I've ever met anyone who says, yes, the reason that I left my faith is because so and so talked me out of it.
Well, I could introduce you to people that will say that.
I mean, that'd be great. I would tell them to their face that I don't think that's what convinced them out of their faith. I think they did it on their own.
D-
I think
d-
that whoever it was that talked to them, whoever it was that asked them the initial
Me.
questions or whatever, certainly helped. But I don't think that that person can be counted as even remotely responsible for it because I think to do so dirties the idea of intellectual individualism. The idea
So
that like, oh, sorry.
just to give you an example that I don't think this applies to, I had an ex girlfriend who was fairly strong Christian. As soon as she found out, she had no idea that churches didn't pay taxes. And like every once in a while, we'd have like playful debates about it. She goes,
That's like the
"Churches don't pay
thing.
taxes," and then like I seen her eyes like get really big, and then she walked away, and she stood with her hand on the coffee table, looked down. She's like, "It's just a fucking scam." Oh my god, that's all it took, and the light just immediately went on. And I wasn't even. I didn't throw that out there as a bombshell. I think I said that as like a passing thing about something else I was talking about.
Yeah, but
But
you
that
didn't
just
do
ripped it
that.
all down. I'm saying
He
that these
did.
I don't really care who's I'm saying this
I
conversation that we
do.
had. Okay, then I would say that nobody can be convinced by anybody else of anything. It's always you doing it. And so when
I
we
would
say
agree.
somebody's convincing somebody of doing something, this is all we're talking about. It's synonymous because it's the only thing that
Okay,
can
cool.
happen. So I'm not saying like it's like a credit thing because, like I said, in a lot of instances where a conversation between me and another person uh, ended with them not being a person of faith anymore, I think it was wrong of me to do that.
Now, see, you said that earlier, and I'm curious why. Why do you think that it's wrong of you to help someone discard unjustified beliefs?
Um, a lot of it has to do with like how I did it. Um, because I used like I was pretty aggressive, and I did some of the like the atheist debate tactics that I just would never ever do anymore.
Can you give me
Um,
an example? I don't want to do the bad atheism.
okay, so one of the things that's like a really good toolkit is to talk about how Jesus is like the 35th coming of like all these other Mediterranean gods that came before him, particularly Ra, like Horus. Sorry, Jesus is literally Horus. Like everything that Jesus ever did, Horus did first. Like the similarities are stunning. Or if you look at Joseph, Joseph is a prototype for Jesus. His story is like remarkably similar, and it's very clear that when they wrote the New Testament, they just xeroxed the Egyptian religion, particularly the in the Book of the Dead. The Ten Commandments are stolen right out of there. I have not killed became thou shalt not kill, and so on. It's just very clearly like what's the word when you copy somebody's shit and say it's your own?
Plagiarism.
Yeah, it's
Um,
plagiarized. Christianity is a
yeah.
plagiarized religion.
Well, yes, of course, but have you ever had a Christian look at you and then say, well, of course, all world civilizations recognize the inherent nature and existence of God. So it would make sense for them to formulate their own half religions or pseudo religions because Christ hadn't come into the world yet.
No, nobody has ever said that to me.
You've
I
never had
feel I
anyone
feel
say
like
that to you.
I feel like if somebody was that smart to say that, we
No,
wouldn't.
that's not a matter of intelligence. That's a matter of internal defense mechanism. This,
Yeah.
this
I
is
don't
what
think
I'm-
that they're intelligent enough to formulate that defense mechanism. It's usually just something
I
like,
think
well, that's
that's
not for me to understand.
I mean, in essence, that's what I said, but I don't think that like I said, I don't think it's a matter of intelligence. It's more the ability to take in and process new information without having to run it through the bullshit filter, which is like so for the record, there is someone that I would never actually and have stopped trying to talk out of religion, and that is my grandmother. And a big part of that is because after my grandfather died, it's basically just her, and we finally convinced her before I moved out to get a dog, but it's her and the dog. And part of the thing that sustains her is the idea that in the afterlife, she will see my grandfather again. I don't believe that for a second. He's dead in the ground. He's dead as a doornail. That's where he is. I cherish the memories that I had with him. I loved my grandfather very, very much, but I'm not going to see him again. However, am I going to sit there and tell that to my grandmother and walk her through the irrationality of Christianity? No, I'm not going to do that. But, that being said, I still do identify and recognize a harm that exists in holding a belief that you cannot justify, because it essentially sets up a like I alluded to, the bullshit filter, where
Sure.
where you have a I don't know, like a sponge that you're pouring water through, and the water is your daily experience, and the sponge is your religion, and every once in a while stuff gets caught in the sponge.
Are you familiar with Satanism? Like the religion that was founded in America, Church of Satan, like not Luciferianism, like Anton LaVey's church, the official religion known as Satanism, recognized by the government.
I'm
Okay,
familiar, yes.
Anton LaVey he is one of my favorite he's probably my favorite American philosopher of all time, and one of my favorite philosophers broadly speaking.
I
Because
like Jordan Peterson, but okay.
See Jordan Peterson? Get
Yeah,
the fuck
I
out of here. Anton LaVey once said, the acceptance of one untruth, or the acceptance of one untruth is the undoing of all knowledge.
Yeah, correct.
And I agree. To allow yourself to believe something, to train your brain, which is something that is phenomenal at logical deduction, to train it to ignore certain qualities about things that make it impossible, due to the law of contradiction, is you're retarding yourself. You are making your brain a less effective tool to do what it does best. You are taking its greatest feature, and you are making it worse at that. And so I do think this isn't good. But I don't know what taking religion away from somebody does to them. And so part of it is my approach, but the other part is that I don't know how that will affect them. That can be something truly traumatic for somebody.
Well, yeah, no, I agree, which is why, like I said, I've stopped approaching my grandmother on the subject. I just want to push back gently on one thing that you said. I don't actually think that the human brain is remarkable at logical deduction. I think it's remarkable at pattern recognition. Logic follows, logic is a pattern in a sense, but just because we're good at pattern recognition doesn't mean we're good at distinguishing which patterns are, justified and reasonable. So for me, it's less of and I don't know that I would take such a hard stance as LaVey. I mean, I like that quote, and I do think there's a lot of, legitimacy to it. I just think that for me, like I said, it's more of a filter where I think that I kind of come to the point where someone can just sort of more or less travel through life, maybe from birth to death, being a believing Christian, and never once have it conflict with their daily interactions, the way that they process information, anything like that. But the chance that something that they experience in their life is altered by this intangible, improvable belief, that, to me, makes it worthwhile to sort of at least make people think a little bit harder about the reasons that they believe, which I think is would a little bit more accurately describe what I try to do. I'm not, like I said, I don't think I can talk anybody out of religion, but I think asking specific questions is a good way to make people consider just how strong their convictions are. That, to me, is that step that you were talking to. I don't think that, like, you say that you can push someone to, or you have pushed people to go, well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I think that, for the most part, even if you don't, get them to that point, presenting the questions, even if they rebut it immediately, if they then later on individually think about it, just presenting the question for me is worthwhile. But
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
what I'm saying. That like I'm talking about the optimal way that it can go. I don't think it'll always go this way, but that's why I think that the empathetic and truly engaged approach is much better than how we typically see atheist debaters go about it.
well,
Because you want it to connect with the person, not deflect off the person.
so speaking of atheists, we're talking a lot about atheist debaters and their sort of conduct.
Yeah, because that was how we got on this, because I talked about the article.
Right. But I also wanted to, on that topic, I think I've observed a lot of these debates. The Christian debaters have a lot of issues of their own. So I
you
don't.
won't see or hear any disagreements out of me in the article
All
right in the
right,
very
all right.
beginning, and I said, look, if you have an issue with a Christian or with a religious person doing these same things or even worse things, I probably agree with you. There's a really good chance of it. And then towards the end of it, I just reiterated, I don't think that religious people are not guilty of this either. However, I'm talking to my people. I'm agnostic, so I'm not a religious person, so I'm going to criticize my side. I'm not going to criticize I can't criticize their side while saying, "Hey, atheist and agnostic debaters, you guys need to be more empathetic, not like these motherfuckers over here."
No, yeah, and I didn't necessarily think you were doing that. I'm just, when we're talking about, I'm a big fan of Matt Dillahunty. I've seen.
Yeah, I'm not
lot
saying
of
you
his
guys
stuff.
bad, you guys good. Not at all. Not at all.
Right. I didn't think that. No, what I'm saying is a good portion of the Christian debaters that I've seen him go up against have been like pretentious, obnoxious, self-assured, bald assertions.
Not
no
true
logical
believers.
argumentation. Okay, I don't know what a true believer is.
So I think somebody that actually believes
How do you
their shit.
determine that?
If you think that you are, well, I'm just going to use Christian as like the baseline here, but I would say
Yeah.
this at least applies to Abrahamic religions. If
Thank
you
you
think
for
that
not
God,
saying the JC word.
if you think that God has made you, and like if you believe in Christianity, then it even says in the New Testament, then if you proclaim that Jesus has died on the cross for your sins, then you are a saint, and it is
They're
your duty.
non-biblical Christians.
Sure, but I'm talking about a true believer here.
Well, see, this is my issue here. Is like I don't like you are no true Scotsmaning from the outside. You're saying, well, these Christians aren't real Christians, and those Christians are. I don't know on what authority you deign to like delineate. How can you prove that I'm not a Christian?
Hang
How
on.
am I not a true believer?
I'm trying to, but I haven't gotten to the crux of it yet. So if you believe these things, that I can't possibly imagine that they wouldn't be important to you. And that if you are going to try to convince somebody else of it, then you must be doing your very best to do this. You must be trying to do it in the most effective way possible, because you are... It's like the burden is on you. You have the opportunity to attempt to save this person. You have the ability to save them from burning in hell. That is another one of God's children. And so by all rights, God has put you in this position to try to save them from eternal hellfire. You have to be doing your best to engage with them in a way that is going to have the best likelihood of saving them. And being a stupid cunt to them is not going to be that, and they know it. If they're doing it to pander to their audience, you can't. It is not. This does not line up with somebody who truly believes. If you truly believe these things, then you're not going to put your audience's view of you over trying to save somebody's soul. God is your witness. You would have to be caring most about saving their soul.
I'm putting something in the stream chat. I just pulled this out of literally right now. Pulled this out of a Facebook group that I'm in, called Atheism Debunked and Exposed. And the reason that I'm in this group is because it's very funny for me to sort of monitor, well, just to have an eye in on how Christians think of atheists. Like, check that out.
Let's see.
I think that you're trying to sort of impugn atheists for just doing a thing that everyone does when they argue about things they're passionate about, which is...
Yeah, because they're on my side. Hi, Molly. Yeah, I am, because I'm saying I want my side... I can preach to my side to be better. I can't preach to the other side to be better. They're not going to listen to me say, hey, be better. They think that they're fine. I'm saying, hey, I'm on your side. These are the things that I think that all of us need to do a better job of, myself included. Like I said, I stopped doing a lot of these things. I'm leading as my example.
Well, another thing that you also said was a lot of your presumptions about the what you call a true believer is it appears to be someone who is both a biblical Christian and then willing to follow like logical pathways to reach like conclude a given like I don't know that people look at the Bible and interpret it as a literal instruction, and I don't think that people look at the Bible and interpret it as merely speculation or myth. I think that for a lot of people, it's a collection of different things, and to look at it as a strict set of rules on how you're supposed to act. I don't think any Christian looks at it that way, and
Some
I
do.
don't.
I think the people that
Well-
take it like that end up like Carrie's mom from the movie Carrie.
Well, sure, or what's the name?
Because
of
that's
that
it would
woman
be
that
traumatic
drowned
to be a real believer.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about that woman who drowned her children because she believed she was sending them, guaranteeing that their souls would be sent to heaven.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a
that
true
is-
believer.
Okay.
I can't
Well,
say that she's not.
Yeah, but under your
She's a true
definition,
believer
it's-
making very poor choices with her belief. I think that there's ways that that can happen without you drowning your children. It's just
Well, so
that that's a
how
true
am I
believer who lets
suppo-
fear win.
How am I supposed? Yeah, so if I'm only able to engage with and convince true believers, how am I supposed to engage with and convince that woman that God
I'm not
is
saying
not
that I'm not saying that you should. I'm saying that the people that are doing that aren't.
Well,
You
yeah,
can call them on it. I'm saying you should call them on that if they're acting that way.
Call who? Matt Dillahunty on it?
No, the religious person. If they're acting in the way that I'm saying I think it's a problem for these atheists to act this way and you're having a debate with them, you should be calling them on it. You should be
Yes,
explaining
and then
that
they'll
how
look at
important
me
their job is right
and
now.
dismiss me and say, "How dare you, atheists, tell me how I'm supposed to be advocating for my God? You know how this is true? I'm perma-muted from a fucking server or from a chat room in Doobie's server because it's a bunch of presuppositionalists jerking each other off, and the second that I pop in there with a few basic questions about their and granted, this is questions, not not yelling, not shouting, questions. They mute me and shut me down. They're not interested in having their worldview challenged. See, that's the other thing here is I don't think that Christians are interested in reconsidering their worldview, having their worldview challenged. Really, I don't think most religious people are interested in that.
Most
They
people
found their-
aren't.
Yeah, no, well, actually, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we would assume that engaging with people on an empathetic level, like if we can't convince people that vaccines are effective in a time of global pandemic, how the fuck am I supposed to sit down and engage with someone on their level about their religious
If that's the case, that's
predilections?
fine, but you shouldn't be debating them then. If you believe that there's no point, then you shouldn't be debating them. If you think you should be debating them, I'm saying here's some advice that I think makes it more effective. But
Well, I'm
by
not
what you're saying
debating
is,
them.
but, like, it
Go
seems
ahead.
like what you're implying is that there's actually no point in debating somebody who is religious because they can't have their minds changed. If you believe that,
If your-
then the point's
if your
moot
goal is
anyways.
if your goal is to change the mind of the specific person you're talking to, then yeah, I would actually agree that one-on-one conversations with believers generally don't do much in terms of swaying anyone. When it comes to the things that Matt Dillahunty does, where he has a large audience watching him debate a theist, I do think that I think that is as just as effective of a tool as watching Vosh or Destiny debate Nazis.
What's the
There's a
meaningful difference?
The difference is that as a member of an audience, you sort of put yourself in the shoes of either debater. You sort of choose a champion, so to speak. And if you see your champion get humiliated, that can be personally shaking. But it is in a way that is detached enough to where you don't have a personal stake in the conversation. You're not actively participating. You're not being real-time challenged on any of your positions. However, this person ostensibly is the champion for your beliefs. Kitty! This person is ostensibly the champion for your beliefs, and they've just gotten shown a fool. I think that I would agree with you that one-on-one conversations are not very effective, if effective at all, at convincing a given individual out of their religious predilections, but doing so in front of an audience, and I can actually attest to personal experience from this one, does plant seeds of doubt.
Maybe. I do kind of address this as well in my article.
Dan,
However,
you keep talking about this article. I'm gonna have to read it or something, aren't I?
I'm not very long. It's probably like a 4-minute read, 5-minute read.
I have ADHD. I can only last 2 minutes.
You could
And I
copy
can only
paste it into
read
a
for
speech to
3.
talk.
I only last for 2 minutes, and I can only read for 3.
Nice.
Nice.
You need one of these Sildenafils I got over here?
No, I need one of the blue chew, what Elon's been advertising.
What I just said is just generic Viagra.
Oh, is it? Is it that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I mean,
There it is.
full. Not to get too personal, but I'm 23. I haven't had issues with that yet, but we'll see.
I had a medical mishap, and so now I take them.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thanks.
That is an unfortunate area to have a medical mishap.
It is. And this is the topic after this. And I actually talked to Mr. Girl about it for a little while, and it made the Mr. Girl clip channel. I was super happy.
Also,
But anyways, the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about is I have the objectively correct opinion about the Bible. I am so confident in this. Since I was 13 years old, I've studied religion, and I wanted to be a theologian. I wanted to go to school to be a theologian just so I could learn about different religions.
I
But
want to get my theology degree, unironically.
I have been mostly exposed to Christianity, so I spend a lot of time thinking about it. And so the one thing that it can get as loose as they want it to be, but if the Bible has any value at all, it has to be in some way the Word of God. Like, God didn't write it, he doesn't have a hand or a pen, but he inspired the people, the committee, whoever, to write it, whatever. So the only way that the Bible can meet this standard and actually be a worthy product of the glory of the Christian God is that when God breathed inspiration into the ether to have the Bible be created, he had to have understood that it would be mistranslated, it would be twisted for political power. All these things that definitely did happen throughout all of time, but it still means that when any single person goes and grabs the Bible that they're going to grab, when they open it up, that they will receive the message that God intended for them to receive in that moment when they sought it from the Bible. Nothing but, honestly, I can't imagine a supercomputer, a quantum computer, nothing I could possibly imagine could achieve something as insane as that. That would truly be the glory of the Christian God. And if Christians want to say, well, no, it's a literal story, no, fuck you. If you want to say that God can't do it, then he's not God. If God can do it, God would certainly make it to where, through the fallacy of man, contorting the original word, and through all the different things that happens to the Bible, not knowing what the original copy is that his exact word to you will come to you when you seek the Bible. It cannot be literal. It can't be literal. It can't just be parables. It has to be a personal connection to God's message to each individual person who opens it up. Nothing else. It doesn't matter. I'm saying if you believe that it is the thing that you claim it is from your faith, which is the Word of God, this is the only way that can be. And it doesn't matter which version you grab. God knows that in advance, when he breathed inspiration to write it, he did it in such a perfect way that every single person who finds themselves seeking a Bible and picks that Bible up seeking him will get his message to them. And I feel like if they accept that, then this is like self-evident glory of God, because nothing could ever be that magnificent. That would truly be the greatest feat in all of creation, save for creation itself, yes?
It certainly would, but there's a couple of issues with that. You front-loaded this with a lot of presumptions. First of all, the Bible hasn't remained the same throughout history. It's not even the same from denomination to
Correct.
denomination. So the idea that not only that, but books as a medium are inherently fallible. So
Yes, correct.
what you're essentially asking me to buy here is that a divine being let his will, his essence, whatever you want to call it, be divvied up through multiple versions of multiple books throughout hundreds upon hundreds of years, and by magic or divine influence, when you open the Bible, you automatically turn to what you need. I'm not following. I don't
So,
understand what.
kind of, yeah. So, here's the thing. You can't say, like, the Christian God, the Abrahamic God, can do anything without limitation, which means that when the inspiration to create this document was created, he could understand every single person throughout all of time when they interacted with whichever mistreated, mistranslated, fucked up, books dropped, version of that book that they pick up, that they will get his message to them. He could put out the exact perfect inspiration so that anybody who sought him through his book would get exactly his message to them. And I would say that only the Abrahamic God could achieve this. Nothing else in, like, even, like, there are very few other things in fiction that could achieve such an act of, like, perfection.
Acknowledging the fiction.
And yeah, so if you're a Christian and you don't believe this, then you are doubting the perfection and glory of the God that you espouse to believe in. This could be the only thing that the Bible could possibly be if you believe in the Christian God or the Abrahamic God as the Abrahamic God purports to be, this omniscient, omnipotent, all-powerful, all-loving, perfect being. That could be the only thing that the Bible could possibly be. Anything else downgrades God.
I mean, I've spoken with a Christian Bible scholar who acknowledges the flaws in the current version of the Bible, and actually, this person specifically said that they believe that the Shepherd of Hermas and the Apocalypse of Peter should still be included in the Bible because they were only one of them was excised because it was seen as unrelated, and one of them was excised because people didn't want to read from it. Like,
sure, and I'm saying that when God did this, he inspired the Bible to be created in such a way that he knew that because it doesn't take.
Well, let me ask my question. Why
Sure.
would God allow his will and his mind to be communicated in a way that would be so easily doubted by people like me if he knew that people like me, specifically me even, would come along one day, read the Bible, start doubting, read the King James Bible, doubt even more, examine the interlinear text, and eventually deconvert? Doesn't it seem to immediately throw a wrench in your hypothesis?
No. It means that now this is not my belief. I'm saying this is the only correct way to believe it. So by the Abrahamic religious
Based on
standard
what?
is that what do you mean based on what?
Well, you say it's the only correct way to believe. Based on what and compared against what?
Based on there's two premises here that I think that all people of Abrahamic faith have to accept is that their holy book is at least shaped by the will of God through some way. It's not just some dude making up a story and then somehow like it's the truth about God. God was involved in the creation of the book, and that God is an omniscient, omnipotent, perfect being with no limits. He can literally do anything.
Most theologians have already dismissed that, though. They describe God as maximally powerful, not omnipotent. And the idea that, like...
Okay, I don't care what most of them think. This is in no way the mainstream idea of this.
Oh,
this
I
being.
know.
Okay, so if this is, so I'm saying that these are what, this is the most, by a huge magnitude, the belief of followers of Abrahamic faiths. And if you believe that, then you must believe that the Bible is this, because it's the only thing that's consistent. And I would say that the reason for people like you is that the fault lands on you. You lost your faith. God cannot make you believe, and also the way in which his word spreads and propagates and predicts.
According to biblical text, God, in the form of the Holy Spirit, is what enters you and makes you able to believe.
Sure, but you can reject it as well and lose your faith.
Yes, and I've been accused of doing so. I mean, I deconverted after years of, I say years, it was like 2.5 years
It's a slow
of
burn of losing your faith.
honest investigation. Yeah, but I mean, it was investigation towards the existence of the God I believed in, then the existence of a God, period. Like, it
Yeah, knowing
wasn't,
is the enemy of faith. You cannot have faith in something that you know. These are contradictory, which is also
no, that's
why
not
if
true whatsoever. I disagree with that
faith is to believe
wholeheartedly.
something without knowing. That's what
No,
it
faith is to
means.
believe something without necessary justification.
If you know, then you have necessary justification.
But I have both faith and knowledge in the like I have the knowledge that I parked my car outside, and I have faith that it's still there. The faith is predicated on the knowledge that my neighborhood is generally safe. I didn't leave my keys in the car, and I left it locked.
Sure, you don't know that it's still there. It could have been stolen or anything like that. You have faith that it's still there. Sure.
Correct, but I have a
As soon as you
reasonable
see it, you don't have
justification.
faith anymore. You just know it. Like this isn't. I'm not trying to like fuck with you here. This isn't.
No,
This
I
shouldn't be a
understand.
contentious. I think that that's also why, if you truly believe in God, you would have to say there can't be evidence of God. If there's proof that God exists, then God is taking away your one criteria in order to live with Him forever and ever when you die and go to heaven, which is having faith in Him. He would be damning all of humanity to hell if He allowed proof of His existence to be there,
Then how
because
do you
His
account for
requirement
the
is faith.
evidentialist Christians? Are you just going to say they're
They're
wrong?
crazy. Yeah,
Okay, like I don't think
you
that's
have to
so
have
bad.
faith.
I don't think until you can like epistemically justify your position beyond what they can theirs, you have any grounds to call them crazy.
Well, okay, that's fine, but that is still what I think. I think
No,
that
that's fair. You're welcome to think that, and
I also
right
think that
there
their
with
evidence
you.
isn't. I don't think their evidence bears out. I've looked at evidence for the
I
existence
agree.
of God, so I would say that they're wrong. So I'm being hyperbolic here, but I'm saying like they are wrong in their assumption that there is proof of God. Otherwise, if they were right, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. If you and I agree that they're right, then okay, then God's real. And maybe we're all going to hell since we can't have faith in Him anymore. But
Agree that you're both wrong. I don't like. Okay. If I can be fully honest here, this conversation is probably best had with either a Catholic or a Bible scholar, because to me, I have zero interest in discussing the internal consistency of a worldview that I have hold no respect or knowledge, personal
sure,
investment towards
I'm
outside of
operating under the most
combating it.
basic tenets of the Abrahamic religions, which is that their book was created under the influence of God. It was God's will that the book be created, and that God is like omniscient, omnipotent. Like there's no limits to what God can do. And if this is the case, it does not. It does not stand to. It stands to reason that, and he, I think, it like the reason you make a book is to communicate something, right?
As I've said, not all believers of the Abrahamic faith. If we could just
Yeah, and I'm saying that they're wrong
that
then.
would help. Yeah,
Sure.
and I don't know under what criteria you're calling them wrong, because you're calling them wrong based on the existence of and the qualities of a supernatural entity that we can neither confirm. nor
I would
deny the
say that.
existence of.
Okay, so when I say the Abrahamic religions, I mean Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
I know what the Abrahamic religions are. I asked if we could frame it around Christianity for the sake of like a cohesive discussion.
Sure.
I don't consider those similar enough to lump into the same bucket outside of the origin point.
Sure, they all like their book, and they all like their book for the same reason.
Well, yeah, but I like books too.
Well, I said they like their book.
Well, if I wrote a book, I'd probably like it a lot too.
They didn't write their book, though. They think that God had something to do with their book being written. Right?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. If God had a hand in writing this book, there's only one way that makes any sense for this to go up. One, for it to have value.
Okay, whoa. Only one way that this makes any sense. How
Yes.
would you rule out all other ways that it could possibly make sense?
Hit me with one. Because I'll explain why that doesn't make any sense. Because you've already explained why it doesn't make sense for almost every other reason. Is that mistranslations, deliberate rewrites, books being taken out, books being added. It's been trashed over and over and over again. The only way that a true message that was there to begin with could possibly survive is if it was a living, changing message that God intended when He originally breathed the inspiration for the book to be written. Like I said, I don't even believe this. But this is the only thing that can be consistent with the idea of this glorious, omniscient being. Otherwise, you're downgrading God.
Like I said, the internal consistency of the worldview is of little relevance to me. You would be better off, like, no offense, you would be better off having this discussion with an actual Christian.
Well, if I'm trying to convince you that this is what happened, but I'm saying that if you are a Christian, this is the only approach.
No, I'm saying this discussion about whether or not Christianity has a internally consistent approach or not is uninteresting and irrelevant to me. I do not care.
Sure, but when I approached you about the subject, I said that I have the best explanation for the Bible from that position. Yeah?
Right. Yeah.
So that's all I'm claiming.
Well,
here.
I think I misunderstood. Let me.
So I'm just saying, like, if you're a Christian and you don't accept and you don't follow my explanation for the Bible, then I think that you would have to be right. If Christians are right, this is a better way to put it. If mainstream Christianity is correct about God's existence and the Bible being the Word of God, this is how it has to be. That's what I'm saying.
Mainstream Christianity is correct about their specific version. Which God? Like the Catholic version, the Lutheran version? Like, this is kind of the issue, is that you want to lump all Christians together as, here is how your worldview is consistent. The problem is there are like you mentioned groups earlier, like Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, who have external books. How do you prove or disprove the legitimacy?
I said the Bible. Originally.
Yes, the Mormons.
Then I got a little bit more loose.
Part of biblical text.
Okay, when I say the Bible, I'm talking about what you think of and what I think of when we hear the Bible.
But if you are speaking to a Mormon,
this couldn't apply to a Mormon because Joseph Smith wrote it.
But under
and my criteria was
biblical. It was heavenly inspired, divinely inspired. And if you're a Mormon, you believe that Joseph Smith received it via divine revelation from the angel Moroni.
Sure. But it's not the Bible either.
Okay, but Mormons consider it to be. How do you deign to tell them that no, it's not? How do you deign to tell Catholics that the apocryphal books are not actually part of the Bible? Like, do you include the apocryphal books as part of the Bible in your evaluation?
Mormons don't think of God in the same way that other Christians do. I would almost argue. I would basically say that Mormons aren't really Christians.
Well, I would agree, but the problem here is your argument is predicated on, if I go to a Christian and I'm trying to demonstrate the most consistent way for their worldview to follow, well, a Mormon would come to you and say, I'm a Christian. So would you just turn to them and say, no, you're not?
Yeah.
They believe in the Bible. They are technically Abrahamic religion.
Okay, so if I say that I'm a Christian, knowing that I don't believe in any of it, it does not make me one.
Why?
Why? Because saying you're something doesn't make you something.
Do
I need to do the Apache helicopter meme?
No. But if I tell you that I believe that Jesus Christ died for my sins, but I think that the Bible is full of hogwash, I would call that person a Christian. You wouldn't. Why not?
No, I would call them a Christian then.
Okay, but they're not a Bible-believing Christian.
By the strictest definition, they're a Christian. But I also laid out my criteria in that.
Definition.
I did also say, well, yeah, because Christian just means one that believes that Christ was the Son of God and died for their sins. That's all you have to do to be a Christian.
Nothing in that definition entails belief in the Bible.
Sure. Although I don't know where you're getting this idea that he died on the cross if it did not originate from the Bible.
Well, I mean, hey, I'm not arguing with you there, but I've met and spoken with non-Bible believing Christians. They do exist.
Sure, but I'm also espousing that everybody who doesn't agree with this premise like what the Bible is wrong. So I'm saying they're just as wrong as all the other people.
How are they wrong? You are basing
Because
their incorrectness merely off of their inconsistency with the internal narrative.
yes,
Unless I'm missing, yeah. So I don't know that that's enough to call
based on
something
two
wrong.
things. If you believe in these two things, is that one, the Bible is in some part the Word of God, or in whole the Word of God, and that you believe that God is an omniscient, omnipresent being that is limitless in their capabilities, then this is what the Bible must be. If
Well,
you
you've
don't believe
already
in either of those two
you've
things,
front-loaded
then
everything into
fine.
that second thing. Yeah.
Yeah, to what I understand the vast majority of people who ascribe themselves to the Abrahamic religions to be. And I'm saying that if you are one of these people, this is how you should think of the Bible. You should not think of this as a literal telling of tales. You should not think of this as just a collection of parables. You should think of this as your direct line to receive messages from God. And I think that the world
You
would
would
be a
say the
better
same
place
for the
too if that's
Quran?
what people thought, instead of
You would
like,
say the same for the Quran, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In the Old Testament as well. And I'm just saying that, like, I would suggest that if you are of this faith, that this is how you should treat this document. I think that having a much more personal connection to your belief in this way is much, much better than having other people tell you what you should think and what you should believe. Because I think that when you're seeking God, you're probably needing something positive. You're seeking out this like greater love, and if you go seeking that in how you take these interpretations, I think you're more likely to get something good than having somebody tell you what they think you ought to think.
Do you think that people should seek God?
I don't know. I think sometimes it's bore out really good things. I think sometimes when people have a really, really hard time making a decision, I think that perhaps when they go to seek God, what they're actually going to do is tap into their conscience, when it's been clouded by all the factors that are making this decision difficult, and it might help lead them to what is the best decision to be made for them by their own moral feelings, which would probably be the best thing for them to do. So I think you can have that kind of value there. I think it's a lot better than some of the other ways that people go about seeking when they're lost. It's not like it's the thing. It's not like when people are down and out, I'm like, hey, have you read the Bible? That's not usually going to be my thing.
No,
but
I
I
didn't
think
mean
that
it
it
like
has.
that.
But I think it has led to some really positive outcomes for people, which is why they end up being religious after they have that kind of experience. They sort of feel indebted to that experience.
Placebos can be remarkably effective, and
Sure.
it's actually the indebtedness to the experience that I take issue with, because like I almost feel like at this point I could agree with what you're saying if the institution of religion didn't exist.
And I think that it shouldn't, because if what I'm saying is correct, this does dismantle the need for organized religion. It
Not
says,
if you read
hey,
the Bible.
but if you read the Bible through this lens, then the institution
Christ
only
literally
serves.
gives injunctions to Peter and the apostles and the 70 disciples that he sends out.
Christ
like
said a
instructions
church
on
is the
how-
gathering of a gathering of people to honor the Father. This is what a church is. He didn't say anything about what we got today.
Now you're gonna make me-
All Rounder said something that I was gonna say, but I wanted to wait for you to stop. Is that I feel like part of the reason that you're fighting me is that when you hear me say this stuff, is that it feels like I'm trying to say like these things are true.
No, it's got nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I'm trying to, I mean, well, in a sense, I'm trying to engage with you a little bit on that level, just for the sake of the conversation, because again, I have no personal investment in the internal consistency of any religion, other than to attack and dismantle it.
Sure. And that's
So,
fair.
I mean, no offense, that's just
But I'm
kind of my
saying,
shtick, you
so
know?
I'm kind of like saying, like, hey, Christians, hey, Jews, hey, Muslims, I think you're doing this shit wrong. If you want to keep doing what you're doing, you should do it like this. I think it's better for you. And I think that if you think about it, it's better for your faith, too. Because if I believed that, like, God damn, is my God glorious then? Like I said, it's the most impressive feat save for creation.
So in Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 47, it describes the formation of one of the first Christian churches, and it lays out how they were selling their possessions and giving away everything they owned in order to propagate the foundation of the church, which again was a biblical injunction. Now you can say, yeah, sure, Christ left it kind of vague, but the Bible also lays this out in a biblical book, this is how the church was ran. So if we're following along with your logic that God is giving you a divine command via his text, then this is how the church is supposed to be run. Do you consider that moral?
No, well, I would say that these stories and that are just sort of like they're just like these are like surface level things that might have some kind of value to like the religious
No, it's the divine
soul.
word of God.
But yeah, okay.
If I ask
but I'm
the
saying
question
that
out, well, hold on. If I ask the question out into the universe, dear God, I am a Christian. I'm gonna drop my Bible open. Please tell me how I should organize the members of your faith. And it drops open to Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 47. Following your logic, God is speaking to me through the text because I opened to a random page.
yeah, then I would say that if that's how you interpreted reading that when seeking that, then yeah, that would be what God's message to you is. Sure.
Do you think there's value to correct interpretations of text?
What my whole idea here is that the individual interpretation is what God intended. That's all God intended for this to be. He understood how it would be taken and how it would be moved through the world because free will exists. He can't stop people from doing the things with the Bible that would distort and change the message. However, what he can do is, through divine superiority, imbue it with his message for every individual who seeks any given Bible in any version, any translation, and receive his exact message to them in the moment that they're seeking.
Not to be glib, but individual interpretation has led to the slaughter of like hundreds of thousands throughout human history.
Espoused
If that's
interpretations.
what God- if that's
Espoused
what God
interpretations has led to
intended,
that.
then it's-
No,
Well-
I know that that's what people have said.
See, it just seems like you're
But it
playing
seems-
a semantic game in
No,
order
no, no,
to
no,
preserve
hang
the
on.
integrity
I
of your
th-
argument.
I actually think that when people have done these things because they said that that's what it says in the Bible, that they did not actually seek the Bible. I think they had an agenda already and
How
just
do
said,
you know?
because I know that people do this with other things as well. I know that
I
people
agree,
will
but
lie.
How do you know that back then that's what they were doing?
Okay, I didn't say I know. I'm saying this is what I believe. And this is based on my own observations of human behavior and how people use things that are generally accepted to justify what they already wanted to do, regardless of what they actually think
Right.
about the thing. So, like, it's a grift, then. I would say it's probably a grift. I think that you don't go
How do
seeking.
you know?
I
Like,
can't.
okay,
We're talking about things that can't be known. I'm just telling you what I think.
Let me steel man a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because when I say things like, well, here's a given passage of the Bible, and here's an interpretation of it, and you're sitting here telling me that it is internally consistent in the Christian worldview to take an individual interpretation of the Bible as the Word of God, I'm curious by what authority you can look at a given interpretation that I point out that is objectionable, and then say, well, they're just grifting, instead of, oh, well, that's the honest interpretation they got from the text. That really was God speaking to them. I don't know how you make the delineation.
For the same way that I say that Mike from PA is a grifter. Is it possible that Mike from PA actually believes all the bullshit that he says every single day? Or that Hassan actually believes everything that he says on his stream every day? Sure, I guess so. But I think that it's a lot more likely, based on how I've observed people act when they have motivated reasons to do things. They'll blame it on other things that people are already attached to and say, hey, it's because of this. And then they'll behave that way. So when I see somebody doing something that would be bad for a lot of people but good for them, I'm going to generally see their justification for this, especially if this justification ties into like the hearts and minds of the people they're trying to sway, as a grift. So this is the most likely scenario for me, so I'm going to tend to believe that.
Sure, that would all be well and good, assuming that God
That's why I think that.
good. If God is evil and people receive evil interpretations or revelations from the text, then that would also follow consistently.
Sure, that would. But I'm going to say that if you think that God is all good, omniscient, omnipotent, if you believe that God is all the things that God is purported to be, and you believe that the Bible is the Word of God, then this is how it would operate.
Well, so sure.
That's it. That's the whole
Again,
thing. I just wish that Christians adopted this.
I mean, I sure hope they don't. We've had enough bloodshed over differentiations in opinion over biblical text.
So I've said this a lot in the past before I had this idea, is that I don't think that the people that so like the Vatican, like ruled a humongous part of the world for a really long time. I don't think it's because they were true believers. I think it's because they used the Bible as a political means to persuade people into doing what they wanted them to do. And it seems very apparent because that's exactly how that shit played out.
I would tend to agree, but I also want to point out here, now you're using the word I think, and you used the word likely earlier, whereas before you were saying they are, with like a different degree of confidence. So that's kind of
Sure.
my...
Well, I did say a bunch of times earlier, that's just what I think. That's what I
Maybe
believe.
that's me being hyper autistic, but like the confidence level to me is a lot less. Like
I did try to appeal it to that part of you and clarify that several times. Like that's just what I think. This is what I think. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. This is what I believe, and these are I've laid out those reasons why. And certainly you can come up with reasons why it seems like this could be wrong. But we can do that with any kind of interpretation. We can do that. Sure, we can do that with any interpretation of the Bible. We can do this with any religious structure, and we're right to do so. However, I think that mine is the most consistent, and you and I care about consistency. I would say that if you and I were Christians,
I care about the truth. I don't care. I mean, consistency.
Well, the truth
usually falls in
is
line
consistent.
with the truth, but I care about. Well, it can be.
So the truth must be consistent. A lie can also be consistent.
Why must the truth be consistent?
Can you give me an example of a truth that fails to be consistent?
Can you
within its own question? Well, because it seems to be a feature. I don't know what truth means if it's not something that's at least consistent within its own like parameters.
Sure. You've hit on exactly what I was trying to get at.
So this is like the defining criteria of truth.
Yes,
well, yeah, because
it seems to be consistent, but I
it's.
don't think that
I can't be. What could be more convincing than that? Like, so if the truth isn't consistent, then I just don't know what anything is ever. So I need the truth to be consistent so I can understand truth from false.
Yeah. So I would agree as a presupposition, we assume the truth to be consistent, but that doesn't mean that it is.
Okay, but if we're not past these kinds of presuppositions, I don't know why we would have a conversation about something being correct or incorrect anyways.
Well, we can presume them, but I don't like if we're going to get way back down into ontology, then we need to retreat and re-examine the presuppositions. Wouldn't you agree?
Sure. I'm saying that the truth must be consistent because without it, it lacks any meaning. There is nothing there to say truth about. Truth is defined by its consistency. Once something is shown to be inconsistent, we must then understand that something about our understanding of this is not true. And we can demonstrate this by showing this inconsistency. Right?
I guess.
Well, I like
to me, truth is about accuracy, and accuracy doesn't necessarily entail consistency.
What determines accuracy?
Our ability to measure it. I don't think that we can ever attain 100 degrees certainty or 100% certainty about really anything. So the best that we can approximate when we're talking about truth, what we're actually talking about is a maximal degree of certainty towards the validity of any claim. So truth, as in a broad, like truth capital T, is something that evades human perception. But truth in the colloquial sense is something that we can be kind of sure about, but not 100% confident in.
And I think we get that from consistency. You said something is true if we can measure it. Okay, but what are you measuring it for? Like the measurement is to determine probably consistency. Accuracy of something, which is determined by consistency.
Okay. Yeah.
So we have this idea about the thing that could be true or false, and the way that we measure and test whether it is true or false is seeing if it remains consistent. Yes? Right?
Yes, although in the past it would have been considered true that the sun orbits around the Earth.
Because it had always been consistent.
That would have remained consistent up until scientific methods progressed to the point where that could be disproven. In which case we said, oh, this isn't true anymore. How do we know? Because the thing that we thought was consistently happening here isn't. So now we had to re-examine it. No, from my perspective, the truth
Yeah.
was that that the Earth revolved around the sun. Our justified belief was that the Earth or the sun revolved around the Earth. Justified belief and truth are two different things.
I think that unless we're talking about capital T truth, all we have, truth is always a stand-in for justified belief that is also consistent.
Right, but
It's
thought
justified
that we were boiling
via
it
its
back
consistency.
down to ontology, which is why I'm trying to separate the two.
Well, like if we're going like super presuppositional, I'll tell you straight up, the only thing that we can ever truly know is that something is thinking. That's it. After that, everything's up to interpretation. I might not be real. I might be the thought of something else, but something must be thinking in order to
I
doubt
think you're a figment
thought.
of my imagination.
Sure, maybe. We can't really know any of that stuff, but something somewhere must be thinking. That's all we really know. Because in order to doubt, there has to be thought. After that, it's anybody's guess, but we're going along, we're going about our lives and all that with all these assumptions that we just kind of all agree on, for the most part, at least you and I do, because we're having this conversation. And so when we say that something is true, the thing that breaks that is seeing an inconsistency.
Okay, under these definitions, yes, I can agree.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. That's why if I was a Christian,
I'm autistic. I need to
I would-
understand this stuff.
I would care so much if my faith was inconsistent within its
you
own
would.
system. Within its own system, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
you would. I don't
Sure.
think that a lot. I don't think that there are Christian. Like, I understand that your argument is meant to convince them towards this, but I don't think that there are Christians who are interested in consistency within their worldview.
Well, let me put it this way. They don't lose anything from it. They gain a closer, more personal connection with God. And I think that even if you're not seeking out consistency, if somebody delivers you what you already have, but they go, and by the way, now it's totally consistent. You don't have to engage in cognitive dissonance
I
to
don't
believe the
think
thing that you believe
consistency-
anymore.
I don't think consistency is important to someone already engaging in cognitive dissonance.
I think that there is an innate appeal to not having to deviate what you already hold to be true. If you can have it and have it be consistent, I think that you're going to be inclined to take a look.
But surely, then, if the pattern seeking is inherent, wouldn't they have come to these patterns like because of the consistency they thought they observed? Why would they need you to add on extra consistency?
Well, look, the mainstream ideology behind most major religions is so riddled with inconsistencies. But people that are religious, they try to bridge that still. They still try to
Well,
bridge
yeah.
it.
They think that their worldview is consistent. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're saying here is a more consistent version. I'm saying, well, if I put you in front of, and I know we don't do these anymore, but if I put you in front of my grandmother, she believes that everything about her world, and if we gave her, enough philosophical introduction to like understand what we were talking about, she thinks her worldview is consistent as is. She does not believe every portion of the Bible in a 100%. Like, she doesn't believe every time she opens the Bible, God is speaking directly to her, but she does believe that she's accessing the wisdom of God.
And I think that there is a huge appeal to this consistent idea instead of saying, hey, check this out. I'm going to lay out this way that the thing that you've been doing is even more, it shows even a greater glory of God than what you were previously doing. This is a way, like believing this honors God to a higher level than a traditional Christian is capable of doing without it.
So,
Because you're saying this book
We're
is
talking about-
self-evident
well,
of the glory
this
of
is like a-
God.
So, the side note, if we're talking about compassionate conversation, maybe don't, as an agnostic, approach some Christians by talking about, like, here's my version of a greater glory, because they will just get offended.
No, what I would do is say, I would explain the idea and go, would this not truly show the gloriness of God that you know, the glory of God that you know that he is? Could anything ever match a task this insurmountable as to have this message propagated in this way? Could it not only be the God of the Bible that did that could do something like this? And if he can, then why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he want you to get exactly his message to you and to her
Christians
and to
already
him?
believe that
I
God
think Christians
created
will eat
the
that shit
entire
up.
universe. Well, I mean, Christians already believe God created the entire universe with
Yeah.
specifically us in mind. I don't see what more, like, oh, by the way, you can be consistent slightly, like,
I
sorry,
think it
rather,
even
I
appeals
don't, I
to
don't,
their
I don't
desire
think
to be special
it
to God
appeals
and
to, I
stuff.
think it appeals to your desire to be internally consistent. I think it's a subjective bias that you're injecting here. I don't think all Christians care about that. I think you do, and I mean, I would agree. I do think that I do as well, but I don't know that it's necessarily, like, again, we are talking about people who have accepted unjustified beliefs as factual.
If this was the case, then there would be no need for like televangelists and stuff. Like the people that are really big in the Christian community are people that take these like loose ideas that Christians kind of like are aware of and they kind of hold on to, and then they make them something better. They put them together for them. They make shit click a little bit better from like, oh yeah, oh my God, this guy gets it. Like I'm so happy that he helped me understand this part of the Bible better. Like people that are religious, especially the more evangelical ones, like the more evangelical, the more bigger this is for you. They're not all, but I'd say that most of them have some sort of pull to get a better understanding of the word, to get a better understanding of who they are in relation to their God. And this gives them
Sure, and
a
I did
lot
when
of
I was a
that.
Christian. I did when I was a Christian, but the focus was never on consistency as a primary goal.
Yeah, but I'm not approaching that. I'm approaching you with the consistency. I'm not approaching them with the consistency. I have a different sales pitch for them. My sales pitch to them is to talk about how my idea truly shows the glory of God, and like, how could you doubt this when like this would be the greatest. This would be the greatest feat. God could do it. Like he loves you. He loves us all more than we could ever imagine. He would want to do it. Why wouldn't he do it? This seems to be the way that God would do this for us, right? And maybe this puts an end to all the confusion and all the infighting between different sects of Christianity. This is what God would have intended. I think that appeals to Christians a lot.
You think that telling Christians that the internally consistent view is to have an individual interpretation of the
I don't
Bible
think I
would
talk to them about how
infighting?
internally consistent it is. I think that they just pick up on it as I'm
So
giving
then,
them the pitch.
So then, hold on. So then the individual interpretation aspect. You think that would bring an end to infighting in Christianity?
This is my
I
pitch
think I
to
would-
the person.
I would agree again with the abolishment of institutional religion, but institutional religion remains. So like, why would you pitch them something that has no bearing on like the real world?
I think that it also. I think that if they accept this, they also move away from institutional religion
I mean, I
necessarily.
don't know. I don't know why that's necessary.
Maybe not. They might still participate because it's just like something they've always done, like the tribal thing and all that. But there is at least an allure to not feeling that same compulsion through thinking this is my only way to get a better understanding of the word.
I'm trying real hard to like put myself back in the mindset that I was in like 4 or 5 years ago.
It's hard. I've been watching old streams of Destiny and mrgirl, and I can't see them with the same eyes anymore because I know things that I know now. So I think that once
Weird
you've
watching Vosh scream the N-word and then watching him nowadays. It's like a different guy.
I know you like Vosh, so I didn't say like 3 things I wanted to say when you said that.
But I don't care.
Just like a lot of the crazy shit that I've heard him say, or like this, or this, or that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just like all of the stuff that Destiny set out of context.
Oh,
what
sure.
Burns has set out of context, like a lot of that stuff has been taken. The most infamous one is a Nazi clip, chimp. Like it is possible for an adult and a child like that clip. Have you seen the whole clip?
I've seen the whole stream.
Yeah.
Vosh is one that's fun to pick on for me. Not as fun as Hassan, and nobody will be as fun to pick on as Mike from PA.
Hassan's dumb, and so Mike from PA is dumber if that's possible. So
this is how it's possible. Hassan's fucking retarded, and Mike from PA was like, I'm gonna learn from him.
I don't know that I would go that far with Hassan. I think that Hassan is, in some respects, an intelligent individual. I think that the problem with Hassan is he is far more interested in cultivating a community of, like, as large a
I'm calling him
community
retarded as an
possible.
insult, not as an accurate description.
Oh, okay, sure. Then, yeah, he's a big retard. But I think that he's just so focused on, like, maintaining his community that he will cater to the worst elements
he's a grifter.
of it. Yeah, well, I guess.
Maybe not 100% of the time. I think when he has the opportunity to say what he thinks, he will, as long as it's in
think
line
that-
with the grift.
I would say that yes, it is a grift, but I don't think it's a grift for monetary gain. If anything, it just comes across as a grift for like a need for attention.
I
I
was
think
just gonna
that
say he doesn't need money
yeah,
anymore. It used to be about it wasn't
no.
about money, then it was about money, and now it's about attention.
Well,
The
so
right
like
kinds of attention.
Vosh said recently-ish, that if Hassan could give all of it up and just be the e-boy celeb, he would. But he's so ingrained into the politics sphere now, and it's such a big portion of his community that it's impossible for him to get it. And I agree with that. I don't think Hassan wants to be a political commentator. I think he just wants to be Hollywood celebrity e-boy, pretty boy.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it. So
Got
like
too many
once you
tankies.
reach when you reach the level of fame that he has with the emotional maturity that he has, the way your audience views you is going to be an integral part of your identity. So he can't separate the politics part because he sees himself through the lens of his chat and he loves it.
Yeah.
That's you're just trapped by it. He's literally a prisoner of his own success.
It's kind of depressing.
Yeah, and
Not as depressing as being a prisoner to your own stupidity, Mike.
I look at that and go, it's so upsetting that somebody like this is in that position. I'm just gonna make fun of him when he says things that I think are really stupid. And Mike from PA, I'm gonna make fun of him no matter what because I love that you gave it a try. I don't get to do it anymore because he finally blocked me. But it's so fun to just make fun of him for like nothing, and he'll get mad. It doesn't matter who you are. You can have 0 followers.
Me.
It was like one of my favorite things. Like I would just like not think about it for a while. I'd be like, oh yeah, I haven't fucked with Mike from PA in a while, and he just lose it. And I'd get like,
Hey, Mikey.
I had one of his fans consistently like post on my Twitter wall for like 3 or 4 days, just like spamming like all kinds of like weird allegations and shit. Like they don't know me. They're just like making shit up about me, just going hard as fuck. And I'm just like, at one point I was like, you know what? Show the receipts.
Earlier. That's my first experience with something like that, with someone frothing at the mouth to like
Oh yeah.
hate at me. I made it, man. I'm big now. I finally got a death threat.
Yeah, you know, I've always said, you truly haven't lived until a random stranger on the internet calls you a pedophile because you like to tweet.
Oh yeah, no. Again, I'm a Vosh fan. I've already been called a pedophile plenty of times. I've been called a Nazi. I've been called. See, and I was actually talking to my partner about getting back into streaming, and I was like, yeah, I think that I want to, commit to this a little bit more than I did before. And one of the things she was like, well, what if people like call you a Nazi or like call you like they hear things that you say and they misinterpret them? Like, babe, people already called me a Nazi. Like, they will call you anything for anything. Like, it doesn't.
And
It
I mean,
don't matter.
I think that I probably won't get called a Nazi. Like, look at what I'm wearing. I do not have good enough fashion sense for anybody to think that I'm a Nazi. However,
For the
this could fit the
record,
pedophile narrative.
I got called a Nazi for like, pro-Palestinian, anti-Hamas. Like, it was literally within the same thing, and they were like, yeah, okay, nuts.
If your political position can in any way possibly oppress any person, somebody will feel justified in calling you a Nazi.
Oh my god, and it's
if it comes from a Jew, maybe you should consider it at least. Specifically those that survived the Holocaust.
I would say that applies to everyone except for all of the fucking Zionists that I've been going back and forth with, who are like, just anytime you say anything criticizing the state of Israel or the IDF, you get branded as an anti-Semite.
Sorry, I think it's the Ashkenazi Jewish that when they call you a Nazi, that holds weight. Middle Eastern Jewish, that they're just like totally different people, man. Like one of them, like I'm pretty sure I could take in a fight. Don't need any information. The other one, I know I'm gonna lose. I don't need any information. They're just very different cultures, very different people.
This might be controversial, but for me, it's just thinking of Israel. I've never really thought of it as, ever since I learned about it. I no longer think of it as like a Jewish homeland. To me, it is in essence a Zionist ethno state. because there are the amount of Jews who disagree with it, the amount of Jews within there who disagree with it. However, all of the legislation is like in regards to the borders of Israel, resolutions towards Israel's like what was that? I just got into argument. You know, aircraft Sparky.
I know that he. I only know one thing about Aircraft
Okay.
Sparky. He had a debate with Will that lefties are all pedophiles and groomers. That's all I know about him. So I was like, oh, okay. This guy obviously understands nuance and is gonna have a good faith conversation.
Then forget what I was gonna say, but it's like I'll plug my homie Dylan Burns. If you are like if you're pro Israel, even if you're pro Israel, you need to watch Aircraft Sparky's conversation with Dylan Burns because he is the worst advocate for Zionism. I think he is so bad at keeping the mask on. Like, look,
Dylan?
I've watched. No,
Oh.
Sparky.
Keep talking. I'm just gonna get my water finished. I have like
Yeah.
nothing to say about Israel and Palestine at all.
I don't either, other than I think that death is bad and Hamas and the IDF should not be killing people. Killing is very unbased and uncool. That is my controversial political position, and I will commit to it.
I think I'd say that nobody should kill anybody unless that person is threatening your bodily autonomy, in which case, kill them. You have every right.
You heard it. You heard it here first, ladies in red states.
That's actually my most foundational moral principle, is that you have the right to your own bodily autonomy, and you keep that right all the way up until you threaten somebody else's bodily autonomy, in which case you forfeit your own.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, you mean it in like a principle sense, right? Like, it's
Yeah, this is what all my morals are built off of. All of my perceived rights extend from my belief that I have the right to my own bodily autonomy. Nobody has the right to force me to do something physically that I don't want to do. And if they try
I would agree with that.
I don't have to match their force. I can kill you to stop you. Because once you force me to do something that I don't physically want to do, I'm not me anymore. It's not my body. You're stealing my body.
Yeah,
I have to take it back.
I go back to the axiomatic sort of principle of harm reduction, and to me, yeah, I would agree. Like any sort of infringement on bodily autonomy does harm. So, at the very least, you know, worst case scenario, as heated as it gets in our Christianity discussions, I do like that we can come together and agree on like basically everything. At
True.
least everything that matters, and I think that's really important. Like agreeing on like, can we all be decent humans to each other, which is, in a lot of sense, the issue that I take with a lot of more religious fundamentalists. Look, I have friends who are Christians who are like, yeah, Jesus is here, Jesus is cool. Also, I hooked up with some guy last night, and Jesus loved. Yeah, he's right here. Look, he's here. He's risen.
I wonder.
It is when I think about it, the more fundamentalist sects that definitely are more of my issue. My ultimate problem, though, is I'm of the belief that the preservation of those ideas, period, allows for the, like, if we were to, and I don't mean this in like a violent way, but if, you know, all fundamentalist Christianity was sort of like went away and we just had the sort of non-denominational, more open Christianity, I still think that like that's kind of a bad thing and kind of dangerous because it allows open the possibility to retreat back into the fundamentalist sort of things. But
I think non-denominational Christianity is so silly. Like, I don't want to follow any rules. I'm not gonna follow any rules. I'm not gonna do it. You can't make me do it. But I'm gonna get to go to heaven still.
I mean, I think that I look.
That's like saying I believe in Jesus,
funny.
but I also did way too much mescaline when I was 19. So I'm just gonna keep on doing my own shit.
It's funny because, like, while I was a believing Christian, I had an incredibly low opinion of non-denominational Christians to the point that
it's so silly.
God. One time, a girl I was dating in high school went to the non-denominational church in our area, which was like a proper mega church. And I had never been to one. I was raised like super fundy, so it was like a little wooden building or little brick building was my church versus this, you know, concert center, effectively. And I literally walked out of there like crying because I thought they were all going to hell because they weren't being good enough Christians. And you know what the really funny thing is? Even as an anti-theist, I still do agree with you. I still find them like fake ass Christians. I'm like, come on, guys.
It's
You don't
so
believe-
cringy.
You don't following any of this shit. Yeah, it's cringy. Absolutely.
Non-denominational Christians give me the exact same vibe. Like, my wife has a coworker. She's like, oh, my coworker's vegan. And then after a while, she's like, I don't understand what her deal is. She talks about she's vegan all the time, but she'll eat, like, chicken sometimes. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's a non-denominational vegan.
Are you?
I'm a vegan, but, like, I have my own rules. I don't believe in everything all these other vegans believe in. Like, chicken's tight. Steak, you know,
with,
like, twice a
Jim
month.
Gaffigan, the comedian.
Yeah, he had a lot of food jokes.
Yeah, well, he had a bit once about only eat fish on Fridays, unless you forget.
Yeah.
Do whatever the hell you want.
Do you know why that's a thing? The fish on Fridays?
What, the fish on Fridays? I did, but I have been up for, what is it? It's almost 10 my time, and I got up at 3 this morning, so I've been up for quite a bit of period. Please enlighten me, and the stream, of course.
The Pope, who put out the papal order to give up fish for Lent except for on Fridays, you can't eat meat on Fridays. It's you can't eat meat on Fridays except for fish. He had a friend who was in the fish market, and so he gave his friend a big bump. If that's the most Vatican shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
I was gonna say Vatican gang.
Yeah. So it was purely like a money scheme, and they got everybody to fall into it.
And that fisherman's name was Joe McDonald's.
That's pretty good. I wanted to ask you, did you end up watching that video that I sent you?
I didn't because I was at that thing.
Oh wow, you were there late, huh?
Well, no, I've been streaming for a little while.
Oh, I meant the Mr. Girl one, not the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't
just
get to
want to
watch
make sure.
it. No.
Okay.
I didn't get to watch it because, like, when you sent it to me, I was already in the process of like getting ready to go to the special event.
Sure.
And then I basically got home, threw food down my throat, and started streaming. So.
That's fair. So
I can go over it on a stream of my own, or we can go over it together if you'd like.
Yeah. Do you want to go over it with me?
Not right now because my partner just got home, and I don't want to frustrate her too long by remaining in the basement forever. But
that's no problem.
If you'll have me on again, I would love to chat with you.
Sure. And also, right now, I'm kind of like not right now, but like yesterday and a few days prior, I've been going over those old streams. If you ever want to pop by on any of them, because I know you don't have a good opinion of Mr. Girl, and from what I gathered is that you don't like the way that he approaches the topics like pedophilia. It's not that you think that he's wrong about some of the claims that he's made. It's that you don't like that he makes jokes and things like that.
I think that given the gravity of the subject matter and the emotions that like the average individual would lay at the feet of such an issue, I think that treating it with that level of lightness is, number one, disrespectful to the victims of that issue, and number two, doesn't do anything to further the cause of that issue.
Okay.
Of what you're trying to do. So,
I talked to somebody on my stream yesterday. His name's Sfaxon. He's been kicked out of like every community. And honestly, he's fine. He might pop off with some like he might like spaz out once in a while, but like it's honestly harmless. It's actually harmless shit.
One day I'll be kicked out of every community too. So.
Hey, Saxon, and he made a really great point, which was the very first interview. He popped in here just when I said that. I was just saying that you've been kicked out of like all of the communities because like you might spaz out once in a while, but it's actually just harmless and people just get too butthurt. That's all it really is. But he referenced the very first interview that we ever have of Mr. Girl on camera was when he was in, I think, college in Boulder, Colorado. And he said they were talking to him about his newspaper that he would like hand out. And it was pretty controversial. He said, I like to talk about these subjects with a sense of humor as a way of, what do you say, like expanding empathy? something
Yeah.
like that. And I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people that wouldn't touch any of these things. They wouldn't touch any of the subjects that are like touchy that he talks about, but because he makes it funny and he adds his brand and spin of entertainment to it, that instead of going like, ah, God, what the fuck, don't talk about, like, you'll laugh and you'll hear him out.
For example, like, I mean, was pedophilia one of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, back then, I don't think so.
See, that's the thing, is it's more specifically that topic that I think needs to be handled with a degree of care and grace that he just either doesn't
I don't think
have or
anybody
isn't willing
does.
to engage in.
I don't think anybody handles it with care and grace, because on the other side of Mr. Grill, we have the only cure for pedophilia is bullets.
No, that's not true.
That is the other side of it, where there's
Well,
you have
okay.
being able to make jokes about it and being like so fucking serious that
then
you're
where
gonna
am
let
I?
your most angry.
I'm not either of those.
Sure, but I think that that's a very it's a less common position, but there's a lot of people who don't want to have a part in the conversation, especially because these people over here. But if you can make it entertaining, so like comedians do a really good thing where they'll talk about things that aren't generally talked about, and when they add it through their set,
Carlin was really good at that.
yes. So there's a lot of value to being funny about something that you're not supposed to be funny about, so that people are willing to listen to sensible opinions about it while having their guard lowered enough to actually hear it.
Right, so, I mean, an example of that would be like making jokes about sodomy in the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that what Mr. Girl engages in is comparable to that.
I think that you have you have like a pretty limited scope of it.
Sure, and I recognize my subjective interpretation as well, like no matter what. Like it's going to be my opinion and my biases coloring it, but like just from what I've seen, I don't know.
I know you got to go, so I'm not going to try to keep you. Faxon wanted me to show you that video, but this is the best example I can give. Moist Critical was one of the first people to put him on blast for his Cuties review and saying that he's like this sick, disgusting guy, all this shit. And Mr. Girl made a music video that is a parody of Criminal by Eminem called I'm a Pedophile. And Critical and like 3 other dudes on his podcast listened to it. And he was like, God damn it. This guy might be a fucking pedo, but he's got some fucking bars, man. That song's hilarious. And Mr. Girl is a fucking fire-ass rapper. It's insane. Like, how much I liked his streams and then heard his music. I was like, oh my god, he's an incredibly good rapper. I see people, there's people that hate him. I see on Twitter, but like, look, I fucking hate you, but when are you gonna release more music?
I mean, Mozart fucked his cousin and shit, right? Like, this... It's not like you can't be a degenerate.
That's not the same. Did you see his cousin? His cousin was hot as shit.
All right.
I would have fucked his cousin if she was my sister.
I saw your. Oh my god. I saw in your Discord somebody asked you if you plan to watch more Destiny and Mr. Girl.
Yeah.
If you ever do, pull me in for that.
That's what I was saying. You're more than welcome.
I love making fun of Density.
I actually.
Was a girl's name.
Oh, we're going way back with the memes. I've always been a fan of Destiny.
Let me crack my back. Oh, I mean, me too, to some extent. I mean, the JonTron debate was what, like, kind of turned me on to debate as a whole. So.
I actually got pulled in because he was the first person I found talking about, like, debating philosophy when I was looking it up, and so that's just how I kind of got stuck. And then he kind of sold me with the whole retard magnet thing. I was like, okay, this guy's good.
I mean, as much as I don't like his, I think that he's too reactionary, and I don't like his politics. I think he's incredibly intelligent. He's just kind of a doofus sometimes.
Most good people are. I'm not saying he's good, but I'm saying like if you're kind of a doofus, I probably have a better chance of liking you.
Yeah. Well, then great. We'll get along swimmingly because I'm always a doofus.
So yeah, I think almost certainly tomorrow I'll be doing some of that stuff. If you see me streaming, just hop in. You have perms for every channel, I think, except for the ones that only my wife and I have. Sometimes we'll hop into Discord to watch like something if she's not home. So
as the first official Elder Drazi Orbiter, I will be sure not to abuse my privileges.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna do it tonight, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm streaming with Lefty Jesus. This takes precedent over me just going over stuff, and I'm doing these reviews because I'm writing my script for my Mr. Girl video project, which I promised.
Yeah,
Well, which I announced like well over a year ago.
I remember you mentioned it the last time that we spoke.
Yeah, so it's something that I have to do no matter what, and it seems like people like me watching that and getting my opinion because I'm kind of I'm like the Mr. Girl guy. And if you don't think of me when you hear that, you think of Smith.
Well, I'm always interested in participating in rhetorical analysis, and I will absolutely be able to offer, based on our conversations, I will definitely be able to offer a opposing view should you ever need one on that sort of thing.
Cool.
Although who knows? Yeah, but I mean, like, so far I respect you enough to like respect your conclusions on him. I just haven't reached them myself. So
Sure.
Who knows? One day we might be linked arm in arm. But I'm always willing to have my mind changed, and I'm always willing to be shown videos until that happens.
Cool. So yeah, if you see me on
Destiny.
tomorrow, hop on in. The one that I have after this, because I was going off of a person who's a bigger Destiny historian than me. The third video on their list for me to watch for this is me and another guy from the Mr. Girl community talking to Destiny. This was 3 videos. He said you need to watch these to get the best understanding of why the rift was formed between them. And so that one should be fun with somebody else that isn't just me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'll try and keep an eye out. I just remade my Twitch account, so I will sub to you to make sure that I can follow along with that too.
Bless you. Oh,
and on Kick.
You can't stream anything of Mr. Girl at all. He can't be on your screen on Twitch. Or,
okay.
I mean, if somebody reports you, you get in trouble. I've had Destiny and Mr. Girl on my Twitch before, and I didn't get banned. Whew. Nobody
Wait,
cared.
Is Destiny not allowed either?
No, he's banned on Twitch as fuck. That's why him and Vosh aren't friends anymore. One of his people clip chimped him. And that got sent around. It's either there was like 2 things that were like the thing that got him banned that happened at the same time, and that was one of them. And he was just like we're supposed to be friends. You should at least tell the person like, hey, don't fucking do that. Like that's fucked up. Like don't put this out of context clip all over the place.
Who? Destiny or Vosh?
Destiny said that to Vosh, and Vosh was like, oh, they didn't do that. Then he showed him they did, and he was like, well, fuck you. Basically, that's basically how that went down. So that's why they
I mean,
had a falling out.
Two of them, yeah.
And Vosh was really
surreal seeing them at that panel that they did recently in DC. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I did. I watched the whole thing. I was like,
yeah, I did too.
This is real?
I mean, I love Emma Villain because I'm a big Majority Report fan. So it was very interesting for me to see like her sitting next to Vosh talking to a fucking congressperson. Like that was like almost sensory overload sort of thing. But
for me, it was just Vosh and Destiny talking again.
I was gonna say having the 2 of them and then Emma in the middle, like, and then oh my god, and the fucking when Destiny was like something, you probably heard of me, and Emma goes, I have no idea who you are.
I think she said, I have no idea who any of you people are.
Yeah. Well, no, they know who Vosh is because he's been brought up in the Majority Report. So
Oh,
she
okay.
probably knows him by name, maybe, but like nothing beyond that, I would guess. But like, I would be surprised if she hasn't heard Destiny's name. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, no. I will absolutely, if you'll have me.
Yeah, and
commentary.
because I don't want to get into the Vosh rabbit hole unless we watch his conversation with Mr. Girl. I just want to tell you, on parting, the reason why I left his Discord is he made a policy that you couldn't mention Destiny in his Discord, and I was like, that's the most pussy-ass shit I ever heard in my entire life. I'm done. Like, if you're going to say I can't say it, like, it's just happened.
As a registered BGGer, I think that's for our sanity. So...
It was still too hot anyways.
No, I get you. Although, I will say, since you brought it up, if you do watch that convo, I would like to participate on that one very much so.
I'll do that one specifically planned for with you then.
That would be excellent. We'll work that out. I would love that.
Cool. Say hi to your partner for me. I'm probably going to spend some time with my wife as well.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful night, my guy. It was a pleasure to talk to you again. As
You
always.
too.
Bye.
Peace out. That's Lefty Jesus, and you heard it from him, not from me. The first Elder Drazi orbit sounds so silly for me to say. He said that to me earlier in Discord, and I got a kick out of it. Tomorrow, I thought I wanted to do something else too tomorrow. Pardon me. But for sure, I'm going over some of the Destiny, Mr. Grill stuff. If I did have something else, I'll also do that. That's weird. Like, I don't. Sometimes I get okay amount of viewers. Sometimes I get like on rare occasions I'll get like a lot, but most people know of me at least in the space, whether that's a good thing or not. So it's weird. I have no idea what the general perception of me is at all. I just know about the people that interacted with me. It's either like, yeah, he's okay, or like, I don't like him. He likes Mr. Girl too much. But it does seem to be the case outside of like Spicy Chat. The people that don't like me has the reason why they don't like me has nothing to do with me. It just has to do with how they feel about Mr. Girl, and then they just sort of put that over onto me. Which, fuck them, because I don't agree with them. I don't agree with them about how they feel about Mr. Girl, anyways. So you can take me. Either you accept me at my peak Mr. Girl fandom, or you don't deserve me as my first year DGG viewer. I'm gonna play that tomorrow when he's here, because I want him to see that. Because I think it's super important for Lefty Jesus to get the more accurate quote that I tried giving him, because he's willing to take a look at Mr. Girl with an open mind. Not gonna play it daily. He's really just seen him talk to Vosh, and he didn't like that because he's a big VGGer, which is kind of odd to me because I've never met anybody in this space at all that like called themselves a VGGer. So like he's like the first person I've ever interacted with. Just like, oh yeah, I'm a Vosh fan. I'm like from the Vosh community. It seems like when that split off from Destiny's community, they just all disappeared from my line of sight entirely. And I didn't really interact with anybody back then, just sort of like super passively. I would like pop into Destiny's Discord, just like debate random DGGers here and there. And I used to do like a Discord called The Intellectualist, and I would do some debates. I was a mod there for a little bit just because I hated how some people would behave in it. How I wanted to moderate was in line with their rules already. But yeah, I will be doing that tomorrow. God, I can't remember for the life of me what the other thing was, but I'm pretty sure there's something else too. Oh, also, I created a Substack today. I put 2 things out there. One of them is a piece of fiction that's supposed to make you think about something. And then the other one is, as Lefty Jesus and I talked about, what I think atheist debaters do wrong when they debate the religious people that they debate. Like, my name on there's Elder Drazi. If you want to check it out, you can subscribe to it for free. And if you're like, hey man, I don't like reading, I get it. Then go there and subscribe to me and don't read my shit. I mostly just want to get 10 subscribers, so when I go to the homepage, it doesn't have this checklist of things I need to do anymore. That's the only one that's still there, is to get 10 subscribers. I would be so happy if I just didn't have to look at that. So I'm going to promote my Substack until that checklist goes away. Question. What are your motives for writing a newsletter? You know how to make the world better. Are you putting the transcript in my chat? That is a better way to, that's the accurate way to put it, and it's a lot more elegant than the way I said it. That's it for me for tonight. I thought he was gonna have a little bit more time. That's not really on him. We didn't really talk about how long we'd go, just the time we were gonna start. Oh, I remember now. I need to watch the Boogie documentary. I'm gonna watch the Boogie documentary on stream, and then I'll do the Mr. Girl stuff because people in Wick's Discord were like getting really crazy, saying that him and his girlfriend are in like a DDLG relationship, and then they were like making all kinds of wild claims about that, and they were making all kinds of wild claims about like just like all kinds of shit. So like, I gotta see this, and then I'm gonna get the anti brain rot squad to talk about the things that I heard them talking about because of it, because I think that everything that I seen in there was really, really fucking stupid. Sfaxon, you can come in tomorrow if you want. I'm gonna end the stream and hang out with my wife. It's 11 o'clock where I'm at. But I appreciate you. Wait, what? Oh, I thought you meant somebody online freaked out at you. I was like, that's crazy. Hey, thanks for following me on Substack. I got a notification about it. All right.